So last summer, 14 students and 3 faculty traveled to Washington, D.C. on our 6th annual YSOP service trip. Though we spend most of our time together as a large group, our work days we spent split up into 3 smaller work teams. And so each of the 4 days, each of our teams went off to a different work site where we engaged in work with people who are either homeless or food insecure. The experiences ranged from fixing up an abandoned park to preparing food in an enormous soup kitchen, to talking with senior citizens in a publicly funded nursing home. We never knew what each day was going to hold. For example, one day we went to a senior daycare, a place where people who are homeless or living in challenging conditions are able to spend the day in a place that is safe, where they can keep cool, where they can socialize with others and get a good, hearty meal. We mostly played board games with them throughout the day, and during one of the trivia games, those on my work team were really impressed with the nimbleness, the intellectual nimbleness of most of the players that were in the room, but especially it led us into a conversation with one of the men. We came to learn that he had been recruited out of high school to play basketball for Boston College. Now, think about what was going on in our nation in 1966 when our new companion became the first Black player to ever play for Boston College. He was very kind, very gentle, as he hinted that there were some challenges that he faced in that role, but he kept emphasizing the incredible experience that he had being a part of that team. By the time he played his last game for BC, the school newspaper credited John Austin as being, quote, a major force in making basketball a big-time sport at Boston College. But this is what makes this trip and service in general so powerful. Each opportunity that we have to engage with others in the community becomes an opportunity for discovery. And as often as not, those moments of discovery are self-discovery. So this morning's meditation, we had kind of set aside this time because we wanted to do something that helped get all of us in a frame of mind for today's service symposium. So we are lifting up just one opportunity that students have to be in service and to engage in this journey of self-discovery. And now a couple of student representatives from our team of 14 that went to Washington this past summer have agreed to give you a small window into what really spoke to them on this service trip.
I've done a lot of service work before in my life, but I'd never really worked directly with people who were homeless or impoverished before the YSOP trip. I was a little nervous at first to try something new, but I reminded myself repeatedly throughout the trip that it wasn't about me. The first couple of days, my crew worked pretty indirectly with the people who were homeless in the area, but the last few days was really hands-on. However, I knew that no matter what type of work I was doing, whether hands-on or not, my work was meaningful and appreciated. The trip was absolutely life-changing for me. Stereotypes that I had kind of accepted as fact my entire life were broken, and the humanization of people who are living in a state of homelessness became really important to me. Before this trip, I viewed people in a state of homelessness through the lens of their disadvantages. But I came to realize that people who are homeless are just that, people. I learned a lot about their struggles and their happiness. I got to hear about their families and friends and needs. I was reminded that they go through periods of jealousy, sadness, and happiness, just like me. I spent one day of the YSOP trip working in a food kitchen. When I rolled off my inflatable mattress that morning, I thought that I would be cooking and serving food. However, I was a little shocked and a little anxious when I found out that instead, I would be holding pitchers and standing next to tables of people who were eating their meals and serving them drinks. Despite working throughout my life to not buy into the stereotypes that society fed me, it was a little hard and a little scary to be working so close to people that society had told me were scary, aggressive drug addicts, even though I knew that definitely was not the case. Yet, as I stood next to the tables, coffee pitcher in one hand and water in the other, I was faced with direct contradictions to the messages that I had been told my entire life. Being the slightly nosy girl I am, I obviously had to listen in to the conversations around me. And what I heard was people laughing and talking with their friends. I heard people making jokes and playing with their pets. One woman I talked to, her name is Donna, was incredibly kind to me and all those around her. She even offered to give some of her food to the dog of another woman. We chatted for a while after I poured her a drink, and when she left, I couldn't forget her engaging personality. Encounters like this happened throughout the day, and despite being sad that I wouldn't get to see the people I had met again, I was grateful that I had gotten a chance to meet them at all and to spend time with them learning about their lives. I was in for a huge surprise a couple days later when our whole YSOP group cooked an entire meal for anyone in the community who needed a hot dinner. When we had opened the doors, I saw my friend from the soup kitchen, Donna, walk in. I was thrilled to see her again, and after introducing her to some of the other St. Luke's students, we sat down together and chatted while we ate. I learned so much about her life, her daily struggles, and the little things that make her happy. There have been few times in my life that I have had such a meaningful conversation as the one that I had with Donna that day. This experience had such an impact on me because it altered my beliefs and understandings of my fellow human beings in the best way possible. Thank you.
The experience I want to highlight today is the day that my group went to Food with Friends. Picture this. You are an older man or woman in your late 70s to early 80s living in the DC area. You are suffering from leukemia and do not have the ability to drive to the local food pantry where you pick up your food. As a result of your illness, your doctor wants you to stick to a more whole grain, vegetable, and protein-based diet. Sadly, that is extremely hard to do with the limited range of food options provided by the local pantry. That is where Food with Friends comes in. It is a nonprofit organization that provides nutritious meals for people suffering from illnesses that create certain dietary restrictions, as well as for people who live under the poverty line. They cater to almost any dietary need, creating fresh meals that volunteers like us package up and then deliver to their homes. They also employ people who have special needs and cannot easily find a job. My experience with Food with Friends opened my eyes up to a highly significant yet invisible concept. It made me realize that sometimes the usual food pantry cannot cater to people who depend on specific dietary plans. It showed me how much people come to rely on organizations such as Food with Friends, as well as the importance of putting an emphasis on not just providing people under the poverty line with randomized meal choices. Food with Friends' organization and ability to address this issue amazed me. Their drive to provide proper dietary needs of individuals is inspiring. Before I end, I want to touch on the trip to DC as an overall experience. It wasn't just a service trip. On a superficial level, you get service hours and get to explore our nation's capital. More importantly, though, you get to grow as a person, go out of your comfort zone and explore new things. Many of the things that are commonly forgotten about the needs of people struggling with financial issues were brought to my attention, and I want to emphasize what Kaylee had stated before. Stereotypes were broken. Each person whom I bonded with, despite where they sit on the financial scale, are people too. I was with Kaylee at that dinner, watching the tears roll down one another's eyes due to the high concentration of onion in the air. I sat with Kaylee as Donna spoke, and it was truly inspiring. She couldn't have been kinder. She did not whine about her life's disadvantages, nor put an emphasis on the idea that we were giving her dinner. We had a conversation just as I am with you, and I will never forget that. Today at the Service Symposium, we are all going to have the chance to explore different ways of serving. We wanted to talk to you about YSOP today, the day of the Service Symposium, to remind you that YSOP is also an amazing way to serve. Many of the organizations you will meet today are fairly local, but for those of you looking to branch out into other communities, YSOP is a great way for you to do so. I plan on going to the next trip this June, and I hope you will all join me. Thank you, and have a great day.